I won't show up anymore.
Mike, obviously didn't get off to the greatest start the other night. Were they doing something that you guys weren't expecting, or just execution issues, or what kind of slowed you guys down at the start?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say anything completely new. The one thing with San Diego State that's unique to them in this conference, as opposed to other defenses that we play, is they do really game plan each specific offense, and the coverages are different. So it's a little different in the sense when you game plan for them, you almost have to just have, just pure progression type plays, as opposed to truly game plan specific looks, because you could get a variety of looks. And we knew that going in, and so I think playing against them. Obviously, they had our number for a couple of years, and from what I understand, it was kind of headed in that same direction, the way it had gone, last couple of years. And I think there was a little bit of the performance anxiety piece for some of our guys. Just, and I think once they kind of got over the fact, and something we talked about all week with those guys is we're not the same team we'd been the last couple of years. We're not the same offense we've been the last couple of years. And once they kind of hit them in the mouth a couple of times and felt like they could get some confidence, I think we felt like we could start rolling a little bit. And I think it almost just took getting over that hump. And then obviously just, I think the weather plays somewhat of a factor in terms of it being cold and just catching the ball and making the throws. And, just even blocks, guys are kind of slipping off the blocks. You're used to fitting a guy up with, just some of that stuff early on. I think just getting acclimated to everything.
How do you look at Grant? Because it looked like one of the interceptions his arm got hit and the other one, the receiver fell down. I mean, how do you look at his play?
I think, with Grant and I talked about, yesterday in our film session with the quarterback group, just going through the game. He even progression-wise, he probably didn't have one of his better games. But the thing he did do, which obviously, it's about evolving, it's about maturing throughout the course of the year, is, he didn't let some adversity early on, get him in the tank. He just kept fighting and battling and then finished really strong. But his start wasn't very good. And, that's the great thing when you're in Week 10 and you're having a good season, but there's still things that you can learn from and grow from. That's the thing you always want to see from a quarterback that's playing particularly well, but had a bit of a setback in terms of that game, not playing his best game as he'd been playing. And that's also a little bit of a hats off to San Diego State. There's a reason they're the number one statistical defense in our conference going into our game. Now I think they're in second in a couple of those categories or third. But I think that there's there's something to be said for what they do defensively that does create some creates some issues for the quarterback in the way he sees things.
You guys 2 weeks in a row, you guys said, we believe we're going to win. It was fine. We weren't panicking. But Boise State had never, or since 1971 or whatever, had never overcome a deficit like that. How are these guys staying this calm and poised, facing deficits that they just haven't dealt with?
Yeah, it's obviously uncharted territory. Obviously I was a part of a lot of games as a player and as a fan after I got done playing. And I don't think I'd ever seen 20-0 in favor of the visiting team on the blue. And certainly we don't want that to be the standard around here by any stretch of the imagination. But, I think that learning from the experience at Air Force, I think there were, I think there was a little bit of a panic that set in that game. And we learned from that. We talked about it. We said, basically everybody involved in the entire organization needs to demonstrate poise. And talk about that coming through in the clutch for us, at New Mexico. And now there's a belief, Now I think that's so important for this football team and for our offense in particular is to know that, we can win games in a variety of ways. Because if you want to win a championship, in a good conference that's very, very equal from top to bottom, at least in the schedule that we play, you're going to have to win games in different ways, and you have to, we've really almost played every type of game that you can play. Come from behind, up big early, start to slip. BYU game, we get up big and we maintain that lead. Fresno State, they battle back. You look at, the whole litany of different types of games and the way you can win games. I think we've been able to be in a lot of those situations. And for us as a new staff and for this as a new program under Coach Harsin, I think that's so big for our guys to be able to mature and learn in those circumstances.
Really in the game when you fell behind, you probably had to pass more. But we ask every week about Jay, and I know Jay always has this stuff on it. But the fourth quarter, what is it about second half and late in the game that even when he can get 26 yards and a half, that all of a sudden you look up and he still ends up with 134 or whatever it was? What is it about him and the line and your offense that allows him to just always end up with the numbers?
Well, honestly, we play a lot of junk ball defenses in this league. One thing I'm not used to, I watch, sometimes I turn on the tape, I'm like, There's a lot of stuff going on. Where Pac-12, I feel it kind of resembles the NFL more so. SEC as well. This defense, the defenses in this league are all over the place. So a lot of times you kind of have to make those adjustments. The thing with a lot of those types of defenses is you might get a tackle for loss, or some might not go early. But there's also some holes when you do a whole bunch on defense, and it starts to show. But it takes that rhythm. It takes us to work through the adjustments. And I think we did a really good job in this game up front. Coach Huff, Jay and Coach Riddle and Coach Drinkwitz talking with the tight ends, and Coach Harson communicating all the information to the guys down on the field. I think for us, just in this league, it's just there's times where you can tee off on somebody early and get a couple big plays, but sometimes you just have to work through all the issues because there's so many different variety of fronts and coverages and pressures and coming from every different angle. And as you also seen, I mean, we've had games where we have 22 explosive plays. I mean, that's quite a bit, but that's also attributed to how much they're doing. So there's a lot of big play defenses in our league. Big plays for us, big plays for them. And sometimes you just have to kind of weather the storm early on, and once we start getting into our rhythm, Jay's one of those players that starts to see it really well, and he's also a guy that plays really well when he's a little angry, and he gets a little ticked off. Excuse me, it's a little ticked off when he's 26 yards at halftime and comes out with a little bit of a vengeance, and he did in this game.
How fun is it to get in those situations where you guys get into power football and you got I formation and Alec Damon's back there in fullback position, and at that point that was just kind of a mentality, I would assume. Yeah,
now you're talking about language there, huh? I love that, and even as a guy that's a pass game guy and does a lot with putting together the pass game week to week. I mean, I just think that there's something about in terms of development of an offense, the identity of a football team. There's something about finishing a team off in I formation football, and almost you want to see if you can get them to the point of not quitting, but saying, hey, we know what they're running and we can't stop it, and that's really what it came down to in the last two games down the stretch against New Mexico and against San Diego State, and that's I think that's a lot of growth for our team because. A lot of people think we're a spread team. We think we're a multiple offense that can do a lot of different things, but our identity is always going to be first and foremost running a physical football. Run the ball in a physical manner downhill, and to finish a game that way is huge.
When you talk about breaking their defense down, I guess the last drive is probably a good, example of that. 14 plays, 70 yards, 6.5 minutes. Starts with 8.5 minutes left. Just kind of, you broke them right there.
Yeah, and you obviously look for that. Hopefully that you can find something that you like in the run game that's a downhill run late in the game that's protected versus all the different variety of pressures they could bring off the edges. And for us to find that was really good, and we actually ended up having some good variety and found some good third down conversions. I think in this conference, I think you have to, in my opinion, I think you're going to deal with some weather, and the flashy pass game and all the gadget plays and all the bubble screens, and those are a little more challenging in 4 degrees or whatever the heck it was, or a little more challenging when the wind's blowing 28 miles an hour and it's -5 in the wind chill, wherever it may be. So I think just for us to have that element in our offense is so stinking important for us to be able to compete and hopefully win a championship in this league.
You like being in the box for these cold games?
Well, you asked that. I thought I was. I thought I was going to like being in the box, but so we had an issue because of the extreme difference in temperature between the box and the and the outs. Yeah, so we had the condensation issue start in the first quarter. It starts creeping all the way up the glass. I couldn't see anything, and so they kept wiping down, and actually all the condensation froze. So you basically it was like a windshield that was frozen, and you had to get your scraper out. And so we ended up having to roll up the windows up there. Which was really nice. Obviously it was blowing right in my face, and I had actually dressed for pregame warm-ups accordingly, and then I basically said, I'm just going to wear what I wear for every other game, whether it's 78 degrees or, so I'm up there and, we're basically wearing a T-shirt and slacks, and it was a little chilly up there. So I made a halftime adjustment myself and put on a big old winter coat and felt a little better and wasn't shivering when I was calling ball plays. So I was able to spit out the plays a little better.
Couldn't have him run and get your coat? Or?
Yeah, I didn't even think about it, honestly. Just trying to get through it and get out of the hole that we were in.
So it sounds like you've looked at Laramie's forecast, judging by that minus
heat wave.
Whatever you threw out a minute ago, that sounds about like what you're going to face at Laramie.
Well, we got a heat wave there. I think it's in the 30s.
Yeah, it's wind to cold.
Yeah.
You keep talking about it's 35. Game starts at 8 o'clock. It's going to be.
No, it'll be cold.
you add wind to it, it's a whole nother factor.
No doubt.
How much of an issue is cold and windy for an offense?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a factor for sure, but I also think I like our quarterback in terms of being a guy that can cut the wind. Yeah, I don't think I was necessarily a guy. I didn't love going through pregame warmups when it was 40 miles an hour windy. I didn't throw quite the tight spiral that Grant does. I mean, he's a guy that just you guys have seen him play now for the whole year. He doesn't throw a lot of balls that aren't a tight spiral. So I don't even really think about it with him. We practice. You think about spring ball. We play in some really cold, windy days in spring ball. I feel like the wind's always about 25, 30 miles an hour, and we're always outside. Maybe not Laramie, cold and windy, but I think that when you play spring ball in Boise, Idaho, and you play, during the fall here and do a lot of our outdoor practices, I think you get a pretty good feel for what you're going to be dealing with.
We talked about the tight ends a lot before the year, and all the focus was on how many catches they could get. You guys have gone to this 4 tight end a decent amount. Obviously, Alec as a fullback has been very effective.
Yes.
What do you like about that group? What you're getting out of that group?
I just like that all those guys are playing a role. They have great sideline demeanor. From what Coach Adams tells me, they're just hungry to help the team in any way they can. They're an unselfish group of guys. They just. I mean, and on all honesty, a guy like Holden Huff, it's a really good pass catcher. A guy like Jake Rowe, who's obviously been very significant for us in the passing game. All you hear about them talk about after the game is how much they love finishing the game in that dominant downhill running style. And they say it's their favorite plays when Connor Peters and Holden Huff are next to each other and they get a chance to double team a defensive end 4 or 5 yards down the field, and that's what they did. And it had a lot. Connor Peters, obviously he doesn't have a lot of statistics to show for what he's done, but he's been pretty dominant at the point of attack as a tight end, and been very, very impressed with him. Alec Dans has done a great job of kicking out on power and did some stuff in the lead play that we ran. We ran some ISO, which was a little bit of a wrinkle from what we'd done. So I think those guys really fill a lot of roles for us, and none of them are looking to get more touches, or none of them are looking for for anything else. They really enjoy that group identity and playing their roles and playing it well and doing anything they can to help us win football games.
Chaz Anderson's really blocking well downfield.
He is.
Yeah, what is his defensive back stuff coming in there? Because he throws some great blocks.
He had two critical blocks on touchdowns, in the red zone for us. And I think that Chaz is a guy that, like you said, I think he understands leverage. He understands leverage because he had to defeat leverage as a corner. That's one thing that you understand when you play corner. And you're out there on an island and there's an outside run play. The last thing you can do is give up outside. And so you got to try to leverage and contain. And he understands to slide his body into that position to be able to take away that outside from the defensive back. And that's really what blocking is on the perimeter. It's all about leverage. And I think when you've actually lived it on the other side, I think it gives you a tremendous advantage.
What are you seeing from Wyoming defensively?
I think they're the hardest hitting. Excuse me. I think they're the hardest playing, fastest. Pursuit to the ball team that I've seen on tape this year. They play really hard. My dad coaches in the same league now that Coach Bull came from, and I know that staff's a carryover from Coach Bull in his program. And talking to my dad about playing NDSU, he said that they just play and sell out like no other. And I think their head coach is a tough-minded coach, and they're very sound on defense. They play really hard, and that's just one thing that you notice on tape. Eddie Yarbrough, number 55, that guy is he is a hard-charging, high-motor player. So we have a great challenge ahead of us to play through the echo of each whistle, because this team that we're about to play sure will, and that's going to be our challenge this week in practice. How hard can we practice? How hard can we finish each play in practice? Because that's going to have to carry over into the game.
So who coordinates the tight ends, like handshakes and all their stuff? Is that you or Drinkwitz?
I think it's a group effort. Coach Harson's involved. We had an intentional whiff this past week, which was cool. But the neat thing, whenever we have any of those fun pre-snap movements, we always say we better dang score on it, because it's not going to look too good if we do all this neat, cute stuff before the snap and then we get stuffed for a -1. So it takes a little more effort and pride for those guys to make sure they get their blocks stopped.
All right, thanks, Mike. Thanks,
Yep.
Lindsay.